There's been a lot of talk about the Chargers wide receiver room and how much talent they have there, but I think it's an absolute overreaction to say they have the worst wide receiver room in the league.
You are Locked On Chargers, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Chargers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, and welcome into the Locked On Chargers podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Wade, joined as always by my co-host, David Drogemeyer, and we've been covering the Chargers now for 9 seasons, but this is our 7th year as the host of the Locked On Chargers podcast, bringing you your team every day. Thank you to the everydayers out there for making us your first listen. To make sure that you never miss the show, go subscribe or follow for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and listen wherever you get your podcast from. David, what do we got today?
Well, Daniel, I know there are some unknowns in the Chargers wide receiver room, but I still can sit here and say I do not believe that they have the worst wide receiver room in the NFL. And obviously the Chargers have a new general manager, Joe Hortiz, and one thing is for sure, Joe Hortiz is not afraid to make a trade, as the Ravens did multiple times during his tenure. And I'm here to tell you that the Chargers will have a home field advantage this season.
And they're going to need it week 1 against a team that always fills up SoFi Stadium with the Raiders. But hopefully they can outnumber them this year. But today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more as playoffs wind down. The sports stop sporting like we want them to, but this summer FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right, there's something for everyone every day all summer. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. David, this buy or sell here we have on our normal Tuesday show, but now in the offseason, a Monday show, getting into the biggest Charger storylines and overreactions. And this is an overreaction that I've seen floating around. So this comes from Dan Talk Sports, who says, buy or sell, the Chargers have the worst wide receiving core in the entire NFL. David, are you buying or selling that?
Heard that guy had a pretty nice beard, by the way.
Who would say that? That is an overreaction for sure.
Yeah, so the Chargers definitely do not have the worst wide receiver room in the NFL. It did not take me very long for me to find a couple of teams where I felt like this team definitely has worse wide receiver core than the Chargers. The first team that came to mind was the Patriots. The Patriots do not have a very good wide receiver core. They really only have 2 guys that did anything last season, and it was Demario Douglas, who had 79 catches for 561 yards, and then Juju Smith-Schuster, who had 29 catches for 260 yards. That was about it. They did not have very much talent at all. Obviously, they had the quarterback issues where they were, sitting Bailey Zappi, and then they were playing whoever else they had. It just was a big
bad
carousel. It was just a lot of bad. And then the second team maybe a little more questionable, but I still like the upside that the Chargers wide receiver room provides. And the second team for me was the Panthers. Yes, the Panthers have Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen went over 1,000 yards last season, but Adam Thielen's 33 years old. So going into this season for the Chargers, I like the collection of talent that they have, the youth, the experience, just the blend of skill sets that they bring to the table over those 2 teams. So I am selling that they have the worst wide receiver room in the NFL.
I'm totally selling it too. Hard sell. I'm also, probably selling that the Chargers have a top 20 wide receiver room. So they're down there. They're not one of the best receiving units in the league. And it's everyone knows that. I mean, you're talking about a group that has Quentin Johnson, who had a disappointing first season. You have Ladd McConkey, who struggled with injuries at Georgia, but also, has a lot of promise, but we haven't seen it at the NFL level yet. And then you have Josh Palmer, who has just struggled to stay on the field consistently and also got kind of shadowed or kind of buried behind Mike Williams and Keenan Allen early in his career too. So there's a lot of questions, and then you have guys like a DJ Shark, who hasn't been great for a couple of seasons, and you have Brendan Rice, who knows what he's going to play a role, what role he'll play. But I still agree with you for the most part. I mean, the Panthers one's really close. I would throw the Buffalo Bills in there. I mean, Keon Coleman, another rookie, Khalil Shakir, and Curtis Samuel. I think I'd rather take the Chargers wide receiving core. I mean, Curtis Samuel hasn't been good in a while. Khalil Shakir, if you're going to make the projection of how much better he is going to get, I think you also have to afford that to guys like Quentin Johnson or what Ladd McConkey could be, right? If you're just going to say, hey, Khalil Shakir is going to step into the role that they've just vacated with no Stephon Diggs now after trading him and no Gabe
some big
Davis.
shoes to fill.
Big shoes to fill. But the Chargers are going to have some guys step up, or they're going to be down there in the cellar. And I mean, Pro Football Focus recently ranked the receiving cores and they had the Chargers ranked as 31st, which I'd also sell, but they're in the vicinity of that, and I couldn't really argue for much better than that. And the Chargers are hoping that their offense and what they're focusing on now with the running game being balanced, and also their quarterback are going to help them elevate those around him. But there's another buy or sell here, David, that I think is interesting because it revolves around one of those receivers, and it's Ladd McConkey. This one also comes from Dan Talk Sports, and he says, buy or sell, the Chargers need Ladd McConkey to stay healthy more than any other receiver. I know where I'm going with this one. I came up with it. Where are you going?
I would hope so. I'm buying it. And the reason why I am buying it is because Ladd McConkey can create separation like nobody else on this roster. I think I can confidently say that even right now before you step on the field and caught a single pass in the NFL, but his separation and his quickness and his route running, which is NFL ready, I feel like is going to be crucially important. And I think he's going to quickly formulate a rapport with Justin Herbert. He's going to be a chain mover. I think he's going to be that one of those go-to guys on third downs. Like, the Chargers need to make sure that they protect him and not give him too many hospital balls, right? Don't have him running across the middle to get absolutely destroyed. You got to make sure and take care of him with the type of routes that and the spacing that you're going to utilize when you're utilizing Ladd McConkey, so you can keep him healthy and you can keep him being a very important functioning member of this Chargers offense this season.
It's either him or Josh Palmer. I'm going to buy it because I just know right now I'm 100% buying that if you tell me Ladd McConkey's going to have a fully healthy 2024, that he's going to have a great rookie season.
Oh, yeah.
That's just the belief I have in the player. I do think that he just has pro-ready skills. And if you use him correctly, and I mean, there's a lot of ways you could do that. It's because he has a pretty full route tree as well, right? Like he doesn't come with the handcuffs that someone like a Quentin Johnston came into year one with, where you really had to kind of, nurture him and use him in very specific ways to find production. Right. And they weren't able to do that, right? They weren't able to find that role for him successfully. Ladd McConkey doesn't come with all that. The one thing he comes with, the reason that he's not a first-round pick is because of the injury baggage that comes with him. The reason that he never had a 1,000-yard season while he was at Georgia. He also, was with very talented offensive players like Brock Bowers and George Pickens as well. But the reason that this guy's not a first-round pick is because he missed games last year and had a pretty underwhelming statistical season. Yeah. The tools are all there. If he stays healthy, he will have a good season. He already is getting a rapport with Justin Herbert. And I think that's what this Chargers offense needs more than anything, to have this group outperform what their expectations are. Absolutely. But I have another buy or sell here from Dro Talk SD, who says this: Darius Davis will have 3 or more 40-plus yard receiving touchdowns in 2024. Are you buying or selling that?
Yeah, this one was really tough because this is a giant leap in production from last year, where he only caught 15 passes for 66 yards, and most of that came off of one particular play, and so it was a lot of really small receptions. But
when you're talking about touchdowns too, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly. He didn't score any actual offensive touchdowns last year at all. But the way that he's been utilized, at least so far in the offseason practices, like, they're sending him deep. Like, they're throwing deep balls to him. And obviously I know he's small and he's probably shouldn't be put in those situations a lot, but I think, that he's going to hit 3. And I'm not going to go over 3. The reason why I'm hitting 3 is because I think 1 or 2 of those he's going to create on his own, where you just get the ball in his hands and he takes off. I do feel like he is going to catch a deep pass, though. I'm going with at least one of them over 40 yards for a big touchdown. I think that there is a method to the madness. I don't think they're just putting it out there for show. I do feel like they want to see if there's an ability there to do it for Darius Davis, and if there is, they feel comfortable with it. I think they should deploy it. I mean, the guy's got real legitimate speed. Go use it.
Yeah, I'm selling it. I just don't, like, where is he at the depth chart on the Chargers receiving depth chart right now? Right? Like, he's 5th at best behind Josh Palmer, Ladd McConkey, DJ Chark, right? And obviously when you're looking at it, and Ladd McConkey, Josh Palmer, QJ, DJ Chark, all those guys are ahead of him. But I'm sure you probably agree with that, right?
Yeah.
Going into it. We'll see what Brendan Rice is, right? I mean, who's more traditional size for a receiver,
right.
Whoever steps up as that last receiver. And he's also going to be the return man. So how much are they going to deploy him offensively? Ladd McConkey was pulled out of some days, and when we saw some of those deep touchdowns. So I just don't know if he's going to have the opportunity to. If you would just ask me, and plus, like, you can have 3 40-yard receptions, and not all of them might be touchdowns, right? Like, right. That's the other part of it too. If you told me he was going to have 3 40-plus yard touchdowns and remove the receiving tag, which means you're also talking about return touchdowns, I might be able to buy that. I think that one's a little bit more realistic. But we still have more things to get into, including if we could see somewhat of a blockbuster trade from Joe Hortiz in season, as opposed to the big moves we saw from Tom Telesco in the offseason and years past, and much more in today's Locked On Chargers podcast. First, though, I need to tell you guys about FanDuel because I love sports. I love them so much, and I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games, and the sports aren't sportsing like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want, and all I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day all summer long, not just returning customers, all customers. And tonight, I'm looking at a different kind of football. I'm talking about USA versus Uruguay in Copa America. The U.S. basically needs a win to get into the next round, and I like them to pull off the upset, and you can get them to win this game because they could draw or lose this game. I'm talking about winning this game at plus 190 to pull off a giant upset and get through. You could also go with Captain America, Christian Pulisic, to score anytime at plus 270. So head over to FanDuel.com/lockedon and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. David, we have more buy or sells to get into, getting into the biggest Charger storylines and overreactions. And we have a great one here from Chris Saiz, who's asking, buy or sell? Under this regime, the Chargers will make more splashier, big name acquisition moves during the season than during the offseason. We know that Joe Hortiz and the Baltimore Ravens, in his time there, were very active in the trade market, and they also made some big signings too. But are you buying or selling that the bigger actual moves that we'll see from the Chargers are going to come in season?
Yeah, I mean, I love this question. I think it's a great one. As far as like the bigger moves, I think it's all about opportunity, right? And I think when you're talking about in season, you're talking about the opportunity to add maybe one or two of those pieces that could be the last piece, that final piece that you need. And so I feel like the opportunity to make those big splashy moves are more so in the off season. So I am gonna sell it. I do feel like that they're going to be more active than they ever have been before, but I am not going to sit here and say that they're going to be more active with the moves in season than they will in the off season when they have the ability to just sign people in free agency.
I think the thing here too, David, is the one thing that this excludes is off-season trades.
Right.
And so like we could see bigger moves happen in trades as opposed to in free agent deals, but they could come in season or off season. I do think that we're going to see bigger in-season moves than we've ever seen before because Tom Telesco didn't make a meaningful addition in season during his entire 11 years as the Chargers general manager. Just never did it a single time. I do think that when you're looking at the free agent signings that Joe Hortiz made, though, I mean, look at the guys that the Ravens traded for in seasons just since 2019. Marcus Peters, Yannick Ngakoue, Roquan Smith, obviously, is the biggest one there. Any one of those moves would be bigger than anything the Chargers have done at all this offseason. Those would be bigger, splashier types of names. But in the last few years, we also this year, obviously, Ortiz is gone, but signed Derrick Henry. Last year, brought in Odell Beckham Jr., brought in Marcus Williams the year before that, right? Big time deal. But one of the big things you've seen from Joe Hortiz is him not risking future cap space on huge J.C. Jackson, Brian Bulaga type of deals that could really, really hamper you in the future. Outside of Marcus Williams, those other guys are 2 years or less on those contracts. So yeah, I think I would buy to that point, right? Where it's like we could see a bigger move happen this season in a trade. And like this is the other thing. Making a move in season gives you an idea of what your biggest flaws are because you've actually seen your team playing live football games, right? And you know what you're missing. And it also gives you a sense of the direction your season is going. If you're getting a 1 year or half year rental, you better make sure that your season's going in a place where a
you better make it worth it.
Is worth it. And I also think that the compensatory picks are going to be a part of this too, and why we could see more action, which brings us to the next buy or sell here from Matt Degnan, who says, buy or sell, Chargers make a big trade mid-season, 4th rounder or higher involved. David, what do you think?
Yeah, so, we just talked about how, Joe Hortiz comes from the Ravens who have made multiple trades. I mean, I count at least 7 since 2013 of them acquiring players. So and also just based off of what Joe Hortiz has said himself, he said, I am never going to stop churning this roster. I'm always going to be constantly looking for opportunities to improve my team. If I feel like I can go out there and make a trade and make my team better and be better prepared to win football games, then I am going to do it. But I also feel like the other part of the equation here is the head coach saying, hey, Joe, I need this type of player. Go get that type of player. He has to have the awareness to be able to identify when there's something needed and have, that relationship to go to his GM and say, hey, this is what I need. Please go get it. And I definitely feel like Jim Harbaugh is going to have that voice and have that relationship with Joe, since he pretty much handpicked him to be his general manager, that we will, see that type of deal. So I'm going to buy it. I do feel like this is something that we could see that we're not accustomed to seeing, which I feel like is going to be a positive change for the future, because I truly want my head personnel guy to do anything and everything he can to improve my football team while the opportunity is there. You got to strike while that iron is hot.
Yeah, I mean, it's talking about this season, so it's hard. If you're saying during Joe Hortiz's entire time with the Charger over the next few seasons or something like that, I could easily buy, okay, he's going to spend a 4th-round pick. That's tough to know he's going to do this year, a 4th-round pick or better. I could buy it. I mean, I'll sell it, but I would say that there is precedent for it with the Ravens. Yeah. I mean, they've made 4 just in-season trades between 2018 and 2022. Like in 5 years, they made 4 in-season trades, traded a 2nd and a 5th for Roquan Smith, traded a 3rd and a conditional 5th for Yannick Ngakoue. Both of those would meet that threshold, and I could definitely see them adding a type of player like that. Marcus Peters, Kenny Young, and a 5th-round pick. And that might not be a 4th-round pick, but that's a 5th-round pick plus a player, which changes the math a little bit. Deal, yeah. Which also, I think, should open up Chargers fans' eyes to, hey, if there's a guy that's not quite fitting in from this prior regime and they think they could use him to sweeten up a deal mid-season, you could see that. I mean, the guy already traded Keenan Allen. Nobody's safe, but you could see a guy get packaged for something like that. I mean, they also, back even further traded for left tackle Eugene Monroe for a 4th and a 5th-round pick. So we've seen the Ravens in the past trade 4th-round picks. So it wouldn't surprise me at all. If I had to buy or sell just for this one season, I guess I would sell it. But I could definitely see it happening. They could also trade a 6th, right, or a 5th. And a 5th and, JT Woods, whatever it is. But let's get to this next one from Zane Goldman, who says, buy or sell, Chargers draft a defensive player with their 1st pick in next year's draft. And I am buying this until the cows come home. I think it's an almost absolute certainty that we see the Chargers go defense in round 1. David, are you buying or selling it?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a really, really good chance of that happening. Obviously, it's impossible to sit here before the college football season has even started to get that aggregate data that you really need.
It's more about what the Chargers need more than what's coming out of college.
I mean, from that perspective, yeah, they definitely need somebody, more importantly and more specifically on that defensive line. And there is a guy from, the alma mater of the school that the Chargers got their head coach from, obviously Michigan, by the name of Mason Graham, that if he is available where the Chargers are selecting, I would absolutely love that. That guy is an animal. I mean, he is one of the most disruptive forces on the defensive line that I've seen in college football in the last few years. I mean, this guy is really, really good. So if he's available there, I would love that. I feel like, you add that premium talent to that defensive line where, you've seen the talent be added at different and all the pretty much rest of the levels of the defense for the Chargers.
I mean, it's the most depleted room that you have right now going into this season. Puna, Morgan Fox, both free agents. It's not even the position I think they're going to go. I think corner. Interior defensive line is second to corner, 100%. If I had to put money on it, if there's a way to put money on it with FanDuel, I would put money that the Chargers are going to be drafting a corner in round 1 in 2025. Right now, you have both Asante Samuel Jr. and Christian Fulton becoming free agents in 2025. That means that's going to leave you with a room next year. I don't even think it's the number 1 Michigan defender that they would take. I think they would take Will Johnson, who probably would have been a 1st-round top 15 pick this year playing cornerback.
Probably.
That's probably their best defensive player that they have right now, but was an underclassman last year. Either one of those guys, both of those positions make sense. I think the reason I'm buying this so wholeheartedly before the college season or anything starts, what position on offense are they going to take in the 1st round?
That's a good point.
You're not going to take a tackle.
No.
Yeah, I doubt you're going to use it on another interior offensive lineman. Are you going to take a receiver after you've taken a first-round pick receiver and a 34th overall receiver? Probably not. Especially with this new regime who cares less about receivers. I absolutely don't think. The one position, and it could be another Michigan guy, would be tight end. Colson Loveland, right? Like that could be a guy that could change things. There's going to be, there's going to be some options there. I just think that you're talking about cornerback is one of the 4 premium positions in the National Football League right now. For sure. You know what I mean? It may be the most important on the defensive side. It's either that or edge rusher.
Get that cost-controlled contract, man.
But also, defensive tackles are making insane money. We're talking $25+ million, $30 million a season.
What did Mbike get?
Either way. Like Matabike just got, $20+ million. I mean, the $30+ million guys now. So I think it'll absolutely be defense to answer that by yourself, Zane. Yeah. I mean, and I would take that to the bank right now. But we have more to get into, including why we're going to tell you why we think the Chargers could have a home field advantage week 1 against the Raiders for the first time in a very long time, and much more on today's Locked On Chargers podcast. First, I need to tell you guys that this episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. One of the things that is so tough when you're going through life is feeling like you aren't reaching the milestones that you should be at a certain time, especially when you're comparing yourself to others on social media. It's one of the hardest things out there. You always want to compare. You always think someone else can have it nicer than you, but comparison is the thief of joy. And it's easy to envy other people's lives, and it might look like they have it all together on Instagram, but in reality, they really don't. Therapy can help you focus on what you want instead of what others have, so you can start living your best life. So if you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Stop comparing and start focusing with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOn today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOn. David, we have more Chargers buy or sells to get into, including if we could see the Chargers actually have a home field advantage against the Raiders in Los Angeles, which is going to be incredibly tough because the Raiders probably have more fans in Los Angeles than they do in Las Vegas, potentially. You could at least make the argument for it. But I do want to tell everyone to make sure that you're checking out Locked On Sports Today, the first ever national 24/7 sports streaming channel where you can get around-the-clock coverage of every sport with the insight that only the local Locked On experts can bring you. There's nothing like it, and you can do it by subscribing to the Locked On Sports Today YouTube channel and getting on the Amazon Free Fire TV channels app. David, let's get to this next buy or sell here, and it's a good one from Edgar S., who's saying this. Buy or sell, Chargers fans show out bigger than Raiders fans week 1. P.S. I am going, and everyone who can should come support. I second that 100%. But can they do it? That's the bigger question here, David. Are you buying or selling it?
Yep, and Greg Williams out there put a similar buy or sell as well, just to throw that out there.
Yeah, thank you, both of you guys.
I'm going to buy it, and here's a couple of reasons why. The reason, number one, the investment from the ownership. I think that is very clear. You really can't shy away from it.
We're not having this conversation if they don't go sign Jim Harbaugh.
Absolutely not. And not only just signing Jim Harbaugh, it's getting the new facility and it's putting all of the resources into that. And it's also, just really saying, hey, I'm going to do things differently here. The direction of our football team is going to be completely 180 from what it used to be, that finesse style, to a more physical, dominating, I'm going to beat you up type of football style, which, obviously comes from, Jim Harbaugh and Joe Hortiz. So you bring in those type of people, you bring in one of the biggest coaching staffs that we've ever seen for a Chargers football team. And of course, Jim Harbaugh is the biggest thing. The guy is a proven winner. I think for all of those reasons, the excitement level for this season is higher than it has been in an extremely long time. And I feel like that is going to manifest itself into Charger fans showing up immediately in week 1. I don't think they're going to be selling their tickets. I think they're going to be in the building. I think that they want to see what this new Chargers team is going to look like under Jim Harbaugh going forward.
My heart is buying this. My brain is selling it. Just because I haven't seen it so long. I mean, even in San Diego, there were times where the Raider fans outnumbered the Chargers fans. Like it's been like that for a long, very, very long time. And I think, the Raiders, another team that used to play in Los Angeles, it's very tough. I wouldn't even be considering it if it weren't for Jim Harbaugh. I wouldn't even be borderline buying or selling this because I could see it. I could buy it. And I hope people do because I do think that the Jim Harbaugh decision, the signing, more than anything else, more than the facilities, more than any of that, will get people in the door.
I agree.
And then after that, it's their job to win and keep people around. I do think they made a big enough move. And also, if you've been kind of seeing what the Chargers have been putting out there, there's going to be some pretty cool stuff going on. This is from Jason Levine, very high up in the Chargers content creating world, who says, if you're coming to SoFi this fall, Sean Merriman plays a big role in our countdown to kickoff starting 15 minutes before kick. Get in your seats early. All new. The storm is coming. There's something going on. It's going to be special. Sean Merriman also said, I can't even describe what everybody is going to see. Just get ready to get out of your seats. There's something happening. And we know a little bit about it too. It's going to be cool. It's going to be cool. I can tell you guys that definitively. You're going to want to be there and get there 15 minutes
We're
early.
not going to tell you.
That's all you can say, but it's going to be really awesome. And it's going to be worth going. And I hope everyone can make it week 1. It's going to be special. Let's get to this next buy or sell from Laser Beaming, who says, buy or sell. The Chargers are the first seed in the AFC midway through the season after week 9, Dave. This is 8 games into the Chargers season. Are you buying or selling that they could be the number 1 seed in the AFC?
Yeah, well, I mean, when you look at my predictions, there's a very realistic chance that this could happen through 8 games because I have them, beating the Raiders, beating the Panthers, losing to the Steelers, beating the Chiefs, beating the Broncos, beating the Cardinals and the Saints, and losing to the Browns. So that's a 6-2 record through 8 games. There is a good chance that they could be up there. So, I mean, based off of my prediction, I don't know if even with 6-2, that's a very impressive mark. It might not be enough.
Yeah.
And I don't think it will be enough. So with that, I'm saying they are going to start very, very strongly, but I don't think that they're going to be a number 1 seed at that moment in time. So I'm selling it.
I have to sell it. I mean, I do think you probably need to be 6-2, and you probably need to beat the Chiefs so you have the tiebreaker over them in case they also have a 6-2 record. But it's just so tough, man. I mean,
it is.
It's not out of the question somebody else is 7-1 or 8-0. I mean, you're talking about the Bills, the Chiefs, the Ravens, the Bengals, the Texans, the Dolphins. I mean, there's even a couple more teams you could probably put right outside on that, right? As far as teams on the up and up. It's just stacked. And I have them losing to the Chiefs, so I'm going to say sell through that. I mean, I don't see them having that great of a record. They haven't won in Denver since 2018. We just talked about that the other day. Cardinals should be better. Saints might be tough. Good defense. Browns are going to be tough in their house. It's tough. But Athir has a very similar notion and thinks the Chargers might even be getting an extra prime time game in week 11. Let's hear what Athir has for us this week.
Dan, David, my boys, I love you. This is Athir. Buy or sell Monday. Week 11, Chargers Bengals will be flexed for Sunday night, and there will be the battle of the top 2 teams in the AFC. 8-2 Bengals versus 9-1 Chargers. What do you say? Let's go.
It's a little later in the season, so not exactly the same. Running out of time a little bit, but are you buying that could be a game that we see get flexed? Obviously, we sold that they're going to be number 1 seed. I don't think they're going to be 9-1 by the time this game comes along, but I don't think it's out of the question that they get flexed.
Honestly, I thought this was a game that was going to be a primetime game anyway before the schedule was even released. So I feel like there's a high probability that this game will be flexed. You got Justin Herbert going up against Joe Burrow, who those 2 quarterbacks are always going to be intertwined because of the draft class. I think that there is a high likelihood that game gets flexed. I am buying it.
So this is another important note. The game that's currently on Sunday Night Football right now is Colts versus Jets. The Jets got a ton of primetime games, right? They don't need they'll be fine if they lose one of them. Yeah. I'm not even sure they're going to be great. That's the big thing about the Jets. This is the other thing. There's rules to being flexed, right? The Chargers can't flex into a Monday Night Football game, so it would have to be Sunday Night Football.
Right.
For Monday night, you can't even start thinking about it until week 12. This is week 11 that we're talking about right here. If they have those records, I can absolutely see it. This is the reason I'm going to sell it, surprisingly. You know what else is there that could potentially be flexed into that Sunday Night Football game? Chiefs versus Bills, which has been a banger every single time that matchup happens. The Chargers have beat the Bengals with Justin Herbert going up against Joe Burrow, but it hasn't been the kind of matchups that we've seen from the Bills and the Chiefs in the playoffs and the regular seasons over the last like 5 seasons. That's been one of the best games of the season.
Good option.
The fact that it's Colts Jets over Bills Chiefs is pretty insane.
That is.
The love for Aaron Rodgers and that team. We'll see how they might be the 3rd best team in that division. I've said that on here before, and they might be good, but like taking an entire year off at his age, like I just think we're giving them that's a lot to just assume is going to happen. But I can see it, especially if they have those records. That definitely probably would get flexed.
Oh yeah,
the NFL can flex any game after week 11 to 17 on Sunday Night Football. From weeks 5 to 10, the first window they can only do it twice. So that would be right around when they can do whatever they want, basically. We're also talking about the NFL, who kept, Chargers Jets prime time last year and Chargers Bears prime time last year. So
fair.
You never know what's going to happen. But that is going to wrap things up on today's show. It is still our 3 show weeks right now scheduled. So thank you to the everydayers for checking out today's show. We'll be back with you guys on Wednesday and Friday after that. But until then, make sure you don't miss it by subscribing and following for free in the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and listening wherever you get your podcast from, as well as following us on our social media, because we post the show there every day at Locked On LAC on Twitter, at Dan Talk Sports for me, and Dro Talk SD for David on Twitter. You can also call to the voicemail line like Theo did at 323-524-7924. Find us on Instagram at Locked On Chargers or our Locked On Chargers Facebook page. We will continue to bring the most Chargers content this offseason and continue trying to find the best guests to bring on and the best stories to talk about, as we always do. But we'll be back with you guys on Wednesday. Until then, take it easy and go Bolts.